take the plunge. It's okay. The first year will be chaotic. It will seem that nothing is going right and everything goes wrong in the beginning. That's fine. Don't stress. I underestimated just the sheer amount of joy you get, with playing with your kids.
Zucchinis? Give me the paper. Nice.
I love you, Texas.
Hey guys, I'm Young, a full time dad and a full time professional with the goal to become the best parent possible. The Girl Dad Show is my journey interviewing fellow working parents aspiring to be both good at work and parenting. I'm going to do this by gathering and sharing unfiltered perspectives from my guests. So join me as I research parenthood one interview at a time. Satwick, thank you so much for joining me on my show today.
Yes, thank you for having me. I know it took some time for us to get started on this.
Yeah, it always takes time to schedule for podcasting. It's so hard to take an hour out of your day these days, right? I feel like everyone's gotten so busy over the course of the last few years with everything happening. But I'm glad that we made it work. We're here.
Yes, so
Yeah.
awesome.
And I love the way that we met and the way that we got onto this show together because I'm really, really excited about what you're building. So let's just jump right into it. Why don't you tell all the listeners what you do for a living?
So, hi everybody, I'm Satwick. I'm one of the co-founders of Eva Bot. Eva Bot is a service that helps companies automate their gifting programs, uh, and it enables them to, send out bespoke, tailored gifts uh, to each person's personality and taste without having to actually spend and all the time trying to do this manually. So you get the best of automation with really deep personalization. Imagine that if you had to send out 1,000 gifts tomorrow morning, there's like no practical way of doing that. And if then you had to do that, each person should be getting something different, something which is right for them, that's like practically impossible. Like in no way that's doable. That's what Eva enables for you, and that's what we are building.
Yeah, it's an awesome product. I mean, I love that we met because I became a client of yours. I received an EvaBot gift through a colleague and I guess a partner business, and the experience was just so good. I loved it. I loved the experience so much that I had to like research you, and then I pinged you, and then it was really fun to get to meet you during that process, and then connect this way, and then finding out that you're also a dad, and that you're building this really cool business, and you're growing it and stuff. But do you mind sharing what it is that you do for EvaBot? You're a co-founder, but you also have a function, right?
Sure. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I look after all of growth, growth and marketing. So, essentially anything which is related to revenue, whether it is marketing, sales, our GTM motions, for now, even our customer success. So I lead all
Awesome.
those three teams.
Yeah, so just some stuff. Yeah, no big deal, right? I think being a founder and a builder, you end up having to do so much, right? It's like you can't even like articulate it or explain it fully until people actually start their own business. But it feels like you end up being a jack of all trades, whether or not you want to or not, right?
Exactly. And
Are,
getting titles is hard.
it really is. Are there some big projects that you're working on right now at EvaBot?
Yes. So each year, we take up new priorities on what are the things that we want to, new stuff we want to add. So for us, like this year, right in the beginning, we added a video review feature. So, and we've been dogfooding it aggressively, and so now we always could help, customers when they're sending out a gift to also, collect a review, get that posted to, Google, G2, other places. We've added a interesting angle to collect video reviews there. So we're just rolling this out. We're rolling out some social, sharing automatically for other platforms as well. So that's one part. We are also, working on leveraging our AI engine to take all this data we collect, all the opt-in permission-based data we collect on preferences and tastes, and use that plus GTP3 to also, help you write the better handwritten note for the gift or the email that you want to write along with it. So we can bring all of that together, taking it beyond just the actual gift part of it. So those are like two major projects we are working on right now, along with, of course, ramping up sales and marketing and all of that.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I am very excited to hear that selfishly because, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a customer of yours now, and so I finally got around to sending my first gift, and it was so painless. It was amazing. It was just like normally gift giving is like it's not a big deal, right? It's like obviously you want to do a good job and you want to like organize it, but it ends up being logistically time consuming. And just to be able to go click 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 boom and then have it be customized to that person was just so amazing. It was such an amazing experience. And then I'm really excited to see what the person thinks because they're going to get that custom gift that I got when I was given a gift at Eva. So it's very cool to see the video aspect because I think the video referral or the video testimonial thing that you can collect would be so powerful for businesses that have high gift giving or relationship building as part of their strategy. I do have to ask, given that it's a parenting podcast, tell me about your kids. How old are they, and how many do you have?
I have one kid, as the show says, girl dad. So I am a girl dad.
Oh, you're a girl
Uh,
dad too. Awesome. Very
uh,
good.
and she's 5 now, like just turned 5 a few months back, and just started her, this year her TK here.
That's awesome. I actually have a 5-year-old girl as well. So we share a lot more similar. Yeah, we have a lot more similarities than I even realized. That's awesome.
In the stages, right?
Oh yeah, it's crazy. I can't believe it. I personally wanted a boy. I was really hoping for a boy, and I got 2 girls instead. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. I love them to death. It's so much
Lucky
fun.
you. I always wanted a girl.
Oh, you did? You always wanted a girl, really? Oh, it's
Yes.
funny. Yeah, it's great. When did you start EvaBot?
So we got started with Eva, as all good startups do. We started off with a very different idea. When we were back in India around 5 years back, late 2015, early 2016, uh, Rabi, my other co-founder, Ashish Akshay, my other, three co-founders, they had a previous company in India. They were working on second screen technology for, a lot of large TV channels. They had just sold that business, that startup, and we were jamming on this other idea of something like P2P video sharing in the family context.
Mm,
Uh, and we was getting some interesting feedback on it, and somebody told us, hey, why don't you guys go to Silicon Valley and get feedback there? That's the real market, that's the hardest one, that's where you get all the competition. So we said, okay, let's try that. And we just, thankfully we had our B1 visas from work previously,
yeah.
so we could just like come in here. But the challenge was once we landed here, we knew nobody. Like we literally just
Yeah.
had the Airbnb app and the Meetup app to meet people. So our first challenge is, okay, we left our networks behind. How do we rebuild them here? And we don't have like 10 years to do that now. So
Wow.
that's where we started thinking of, okay, what are the different things we can try? And gifting was one of the ideas. We thought, okay, this is something we can try out. The challenge was that we had no cultural context. We bombed at it when we tried on our own. So, being engineers and founders, we said, okay, actually let's build something to help us there. And we built the first SMS bot to kind of play around, and people just assumed that it was a bot, even though there's very basic, like responses going out on text messaging at that time. And very soon people were asking us more questions about that than the original idea we
Oh
had.
my
People had a
gosh.
lot more interest in that experience. So that's how, like, around 5 years back, we got started with Eva.
Oh my gosh, that's the origin story? That's amazing.
That's the
So,
story.
if you guys completely shelved the other peer-to-peer video project, or now you're able to bring some of that back with this new video referral thing?
Yeah, we have the features, so we'll keep
That's
bringing some
awesome.
element. Actually,
Satwick, I do have to ask though, because the timing kind of makes me very curious. It sounds like you had your daughter the same time you started this business and moved her.
yes, I had the best timing in the world.
You could, yeah, it sounds really crazy. What? So did you move? Did you decide to move here first, and then you had your kid here, or did you have your kid and then decide to start a business and move here? Because those are three major things that people don't combine: moving to a new country, starting a business, and having a kid. Right? What is the
And I
sequence?
combined and I combined all three of them
You
instantly.
do.
So
No regrets.
I mean, now no regrets. Looking back at in that moment, that was really tough.
I bet.
Uh, I mean, it happened. I mean, not as fully planned. This sequence.
Yeah.
Uh, we were thinking of having a kid, and simultaneously, by the time you were thinking about working on the startup, but we had not yet thought about like changing countries or moving accordingly. And then both the things just suddenly happened together. Both the Sarah, my kid, and jumping ship to the startup. And then when the whole thing came about, okay, let's try this in the US. That's the right market to get feedback. Uh, that kind of added on. So the beginning was really tough because my kid was born in India. I was here for like 3-4 months in between during the pregnancy. Then I had to rush back, and at that time we were on B2 B1 visa, so there were other complications
Right.
in terms of travel and stuff. Uh, so once we had switched the idea to Eva, and we had got accepted to Boost VC, the accelerator in San Mateo. That's when we applied for our O1 visas, and then we could finally move. So around August 2017, we all kind of I my family moved here. Ravi had moved here beforehand.
Oh, wow. So you just kind of like went with the flow. It was like, hey, this opportunity came up. You're gonna go for it,
Yep.
even though you had a kid. You're just like, we're gonna do it. It's just gonna happen. You just kind of like went with it.
We just took the plunge.
You sure there
Yeah.
wasn't more fighting involved? You just like went with it.
Uh,
Or...
my wife was like, "There's no way I could have done this without her
Right,
support." Like
right.
it was so difficult in the beginning. I mean, even when we got here, like I and Ravi, we had just like raised a very tiny amount of money at that time, so we were all living together in a single house with like the garage being the storage and the setup for the company.
Oh wow, I love this story even more. That's amazing. So you guys are really risking a lot. Huge risk.
Yeah, yeah. Like, yep, yep, yep.
Oh man,
Went all
this is
in.
amazing. That's fantastic. I love that origin story. Thanks for sharing, and then thanks for sharing how you did all three of those things at the same time. Did you how did you grow up? Did you grow up with an entrepreneurial family, or were they risk takers, and so you kind of picked that up, or how did you grow up? What was your childhood like?
So yeah, I mean, partly risk takers, but like my dad was working was an army officer in India, back in India. So growing up was in one way like fun because we were never kind of stationed in one place. He kept moving around the country, and like we were moving from city to city after like living there for a few years. So yeah, but he had a streak of taking risks and trying out new things, which I think I got as well. Also, because we were kind of moving to new places constantly, so that habit of figuring out things in a new place or like resetting quickly, that got built pretty early on. uh, it was a very interesting, I mean, childhood because the army and the military, environment was so different. There was also like close knit connections because of that. Because we were all like families who were like moving around the country, so you didn't have like a set of fixed friends. So everybody learned to do this quickly. The great part was we could see so many different places, get see so many different cultures. As you know, India is a country of different languages and different like foods, and everything changes in just short proximity. And we were like literally going to different regions of the country. So in one way it was really fun to get exposed to all these different cultures and ideas, and how different parts of the country and different parts, people have very different opinions or very different approaches to same similar situations. The challenge was, of course, not having permanent friends, because like till the time I got to college, Rabi, my co-founder, I met in college. Till then, there were like no set of permanent friends. So that was the downside of it. But overall, it was really interesting because we could play so many different sports, and uh, check out so many different experiences, which otherwise would have been much more difficult to
Yeah,
do.
and also just the skills that you learn from moving and transitioning so much. I mean, there's a lot of benefit to that, right? That you're not even talking about as in like your personal growth and the environment that you're growing up in. I moved a lot as a child as well too. My dad was an entrepreneur, and so he moved us around quite a bit growing up. Yeah, and
Oh,
so I think the biggest benefit of that is that like you learn to be a lot more. I mean, I didn't realize it back then. I used to just get annoyed, you know, because I'd have to change, make new friends every time. But
yep.
you know, now that I'm older and wiser, I'm looking back and realizing that that really helped me be more adaptive too. So not only did I, you know, much more
Yep.
open to
Yep.
experiencing and much more open to trying new things and to a certain degree a lot more risk tolerant. Do you feel the same way?
Definitely. I think the plunge I took to like move
That's right.
countries in situation I did, that would not have happened if I didn't have that conditioning somewhere,
Yeah.
built in. Where it was, yeah, fine, we'll figure it out. We'll go to a new
Yeah.
place and figure it out. Uh, and yeah, that inherent risk taker, taking ability gets built in
How are
as
you
well.
doing that with your daughter? Are you trying to encapsulate her in that same kind of environment or ecosystem, or are you going to do something different for her than you had?
So trying to do like best of both
Yeah,
the worlds in some way. I mean, unlike previously, we're not moving
yeah,
that much, so she's not getting
yeah,
that part of it. But yeah, what we're doing is, she's a feisty little one who's getting her, good strong opinions of her
yeah,
own, loves to take charge and do her own things, and really focused on let me make my own decisions
yeah,
already on
yeah,
every small thing. So that's one thing we're working on, how to inculcate that decision making ability in her so that she's always taking her own decisions, even if that means in the short term she doesn't listen to us on certain things. uh, Helping her understand, like, how do you make decisions, what the pro and cons are. You may want to get all the candy right now, but then, there's a trade-off to that. Uh, the the other thing we are doing is, like, we travel quite a bit, so like whenever possible with the long weekends, we'll take her out to different places, different parts of the
nice,
country, so that she can start, getting that exposure that we
very
had.
smart. And then has she gone back to India at all, or have you done that trip with the young kid?
We've done one trip. We're planning another one this year. COVID came in between, so international travel was
Right,
really complicated, especially
right.
between India and US. So like last 2 years, we've not been able to. Uh, but yeah, thankfully we got like one trip just at the beginning of COVID. Just when it was beginning in like 2020
Yeah.
February, we had just come back from India.
How did she do? Because
So
she was
yeah,
like what, two and a half years old. Like she was young. That was a long flight,
I
right?
didn't
I
have
mean,
to.
that's hard for adults. I can't even imagine for a toddler. You know how that went. Was she okay?
The worst part was I at the last minute couldn't make it, because a lot of stuff
Oh
came up
wow.
here and I got stuck here, and then they had to go
Oh my
alone.
gosh.
So uh, yeah, the only good thing was it was an overnight flight, so she slept for a
Nice,
big chunk of
nice.
it. She was tired. Uh, but yeah, once she
It was
woke up,
hard.
there were a lot of
It
walks
was
on the
hard. Yeah,
plane.
that's amazing. So that's cool. So you're doing a lot of you're stabilizing the location move that you had, but you're actually trying to incorporate a lot more activities and experiences. That's great. Does she
Yes,
understand what you do for
yes.
work? Does she understand what you're building? What does she think you do for a living?
So she's caught on to the part that I'm a
Also, she
co-founder.
understands the entrepreneurial thing. Okay.
Yeah, and that we help Santa Claus.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's a really great way to explain
So
your business. You got to put that on your pitch decks. You know what I mean? Like, hey, this is this is what we do. That's awesome. I love it.
so we, hey, kids get gifts directly from Santa Claus, but somebody has to do it for adults, and Santa Claus doesn't have the
Yeah,
time.
it's
So
actually a
so
pretty
we help
good
there.
example. Actually, I give her a lot of kudos for coming up with that because the technically you customize it too, and like you're customizing it so it's actually
Yeah,
like really really good gift giving.
she's a
Yeah, she's made
person,
to
right?
be an entrepreneur or at least a marketer, right? So here we go. We got her going. Very good. So,
Yeah,
what does success look like for you as a parent?
good question.
Yeah,
Hard
very hard
answers, I
answers.
think. To answer in a like a single thing, but for me, one thing, and I wanted to ensure that she learns early on, is definitely decision making, because that is something we've seen. Even I took some time, because you live sheltered lives, parents are really there to take care of things, and you don't necessarily build the mental muscle and the comfort to take hard decisions, and most importantly, be okay with the trade-off sometimes. Uh, so like that's one thing we consciously try and do, where she's able to try something out, take a decision, and she learns that okay, it's okay to live with a trade-off when you're thinking of it. And I mean, she's small, so her window of thinking about trade-offs is not more than a few like 15-20 minutes. Uh, Anything longer than that
Yeah.
doesn't really register that well. But yeah, she's like beginning to learn that. So that's one very important thing that we wanted to ensure as parents for her. Second is definitely there's something we benefited from as kids by moving around and getting exposed to different cultures, different point of views. So she understands that there's no one way of thinking about things. There are so many different views of how you look at a problem or how you look at a situation. How to build that confidence in her that she's able to navigate that while taking her own decisions. That's like one of the most important things we want to
Totally
ensure for
great.
her.
I love it. You're talking more like systems building, almost like values building, like giving her the information to like understand points of view and broadening her horizon. That's a really clever way of defining success. I love that, man. And then how about for business? What are your business successes and goals?
Yeah, I mean, this year is a very
Yeah.
interesting milestone for us. We'll have more formal communication coming out soon, but this is the time when we're like, scaling up significantly. In our startup journey, I mean, this is the time when we have got to a place where we have solid product market fit. We have the basic teams now in place, which we didn't have even till last year, where it was mostly
Right.
just us doing different things. So like this year for us, the challenge now is how do you make that transition from doing things yourself and constantly doing them on your own, to which is sometimes hard, to like letting go of it and working on building that process and that system which others can use comfortably, easily,
Right.
and that's the only way we can scale. So that transition of giving up on actually doing those things which you love and you have always done, to taking a step back and figuring out how do you help the processes and systems scale up, and how do you enable all the wonderful folks we are hiring to take up and run with it, and enable
Yeah,
stuff for them.
that's a hard nut, man. I will tell you that's probably the biggest hardship most businesses struggle with, and I'm very, very keenly aware of it.
Yeah,
It's the space that I like to live in mostly, and so it's really great to hear that you guys are wrestling with that aspect of it. It's like uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable because to a certain degree, you get so good
it
at
is.
what you do, and you probably do it the best, and then having to cross train other people and letting other people do it, and they're never going to do it exactly the way you do it. In some ways, they could do it better, but the reality is you have to learn how to let
Exactly.
go because you'll never scale if you don't. Because there's just so much bandwidth that you can do yourself until you let it
Yep.
go. And so it's a very tricky balance, and I definitely don't think that it's an easy task, but it's really, really exciting goals and objectives. If I asked you what you think is harder, your parenting goals or your business goals, what would you say?
Parenting goals, man.
Tell me why. Tell me why.
I mean, in business you
Yeah.
can go back and fix things.
Yes.
That's doable. So if a GM motion goes wrong, you can
Yeah.
fire folks, or you can train them again, or you can rework it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't get a second pass at
I love that.
the kid. So yeah, that phase plus I think like right now also like the balancing act between family and as we do this, as we scale, that gets. I always thought that got easier, which I'm now realizing it actually doesn't. It keeps getting more trickier. The balance becomes more trickier as you go along, because now that she's bigger, she wants she wants different kinds of engagement, not just a thing. So she wants attention in different ways. She wants to understand things. There's more to do with her, but there's also lots to do to here. uh, and you can throw more resources at it on the business side, so you can have more teams, more stuff. But will on the parenting side, it's the two of
Yeah,
you,
that's
no
a
matter
really good way
what.
of looking at it. You're thinking about it very pragmatically and logically, but you're right. It's absolutely true. The stakes are much higher. There's no like really no redoing, right? Like there's no other. You can't like return the kid and get it back. Like yeah, you got what you have.
Rewind. Okay, let's redo
That's
rego
right. That's
let's
right.
restart at
Yeah,
three again. Let's
exactly.
fix this.
That's a really good way of looking at it. Hey, so Satwick, let me actually jump over to some of these rapid fire questions I want to ask every single guest, okay?
Awesome.
All right, sounds good. So, what I want to do is ask you a couple questions that I'm going to ask every single guest so that there's some symmetry to the podcast. So I'll jump right into the first one. What advice do you have for other parents and soon to be parents?
Take the plunge. It's okay. The first year will be chaotic. It will seem that nothing is going right, and everything goes wrong in the beginning. That's fine. Don't stress. Uh, Go with the flow. First year is bound to be like that. It gets better. Also, in the beginning, you do need to just spend like as much time as possible with a kid. I mean, that made a huge
Mm,
difference
I like
to
that.
to
Those are
us.
really good pieces of advice. And I actually, in hindsight, I actually agree with that advice because I feel like I should have started sooner too. I don't know what I was waiting for. I was waiting for the perfect time, the right amount of money, the right amount of this, but it's like you would have just figured
Yeah.
it out, and you're a walking example of it. You just like started a business and you moved to a new country, probably one of the most expensive countries in the world, one of the most expensive locations in the country in the world, yeah. And so you're figuring it out as you go,
Yep.
and you're still happy and fine. So it kind of goes into the idea that you just have to like there's no time that you're really ready, right? Yeah,
Yeah, you can't logically
doesn't
pick a
exist. That's
perfect
right.
time.
And then
That
they
doesn't
have a mind of
exist.
their own, so they want to do whatever they want anyway. So yeah, you can't even plan that anyways. All right, next question. So if you could go
True
back
that.
and tell yourself one thing before having kids, what would you tell yourself?
That's a good one. The one thing I would tell myself is increase your patience level. Work on your patience level, uh, because what I've seen with her is even the hardest tantrums or everything else, if you just hold your patience and just ride it out, it gets so much more better than trying to react to it much early or trying to fix it, which I've seen usually doesn't work. So that's something I
Nice.
would tell
That's a
myself
really good one.
specifically.
I also struggle with that. I think it's also the age of our kid, though, too. I think that they're very much so ideating who they are and questioning everything, and so it's probably even harder right now for us, just because we have that
Yeah.
five-year-old's mentality kind of combating us. But you're absolutely right. I feel like I agree with that. My patience has been tested like crazy. Um, what's the most surprising thing that you've learned about yourself after becoming a parent?
Hmm. I would say two things. One was, as you said, in the beginning, when you're thinking about having a kid, it feels like, oh, how would that work out, or it'll be really difficult. Or even with a startup, my initial thought was, oh, this balancing will be like impossible, and you can't do it. Uh, that I found surprising, that how naturally that starts coming to you once you do have a kid,
Right.
because well, there is no other alternative. So you just kind of you are able to like mentally reset, and somehow you find more time, you somehow
Yeah.
find more productivity, where I thought I had none. uh, that was generally surprising. And second was, I underestimated just the
Mm.
sheer amount of joy you get with playing with your kids. I mean, as much as you imagine it is, in reality, when you start doing it, I mean, it's like so much more.
Yeah,
That
that's a
was something
really
which
good
really
one.
surprised me.
Very insightful. I had the same experience too, and I completely relate. Like you just don't realize how much you could love something until you have a kid, and you're like, oh wow, like there's a lot more in there than I realized. Yeah, it's really fascinating. Very cool. So,
Right, right.
Do you have a favorite business book or favorite book?
I would say favorite business book would
Mm,
be Blue Ocean Strategy. When I read it first time, I
yeah.
was like in college, and it like blew my mind that, oh, that's completely different way of looking at stuff on the business side. My favorite book would be, on the non-fiction side, would be Thinking Fast and Slow. Uh, Again, that was like a revelation of, especially the live examples the author gives there, on your
Hmm.
preset mind and your deliberate mind. On the fiction side, I love historical fiction, so I'm a sucker for Mughal history. So there's a whole series of books written by Alex Rutherford, which is like fictional fictionalized reality, actual events just fictionalized across the Mughal emperors, almost over like
Nice.
500 years. That's a book I love.
I've heard the one of them, the Blue Ocean Strategies, but I haven't heard the other two. That's great. And then when you're not building the next big tech software company or gift giving platform, and you're not being a super dad, what does Satwick do for fun? What's your hobbies and downtime activities?
I love listening to some music while like reading. These days, it got switched. So like to get more time to read, what I've done is like I've made it a multimedia activity. So each book I buy as a ebook, physical book, and an audio book. So I can switch
Nice.
between mediums depending on the activity I'm doing, and kind of go through them faster. Uh, so that's something I love doing.
Mm.
I love doing. I love cooking. So uh, I love interesting food. Eating it, making it. So that's something I try and do on the weekend. It's a fun activity. I involve Sarah sometimes, or I'll check out what she wants
That's
to eat, and
awesome.
we can like experiment and try
Yeah, I
something
love
out.
cooking too, and I feel like the kids also love getting involved, right? I feel like right now it's like all of those things are so interesting and so
Yeah,
great that you can do that with
love
them.
it.
Satwik, thank you so much for being on my podcast and sharing a little bit about your journey. I really, really appreciate the time.
Same here. Thank you so much. This was so much
And
fun.
I'll keep telling you how I like the product and as I go through it.
Ah,
I'm really, really excited to see where you guys take the next step.
yes, that's my favorite. That's my favorite part.
Sounds good. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Girl Dad Show. We really hope you enjoyed that interview, and as always, please take a moment to review, rate, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.